think B. Dolan has arrived. Hey, man, what's up?
Sorry I'm late.
Okay.
Sorry I'm late. My phone alert did not go off.
Oh,
Nightmare.
it happens to the best of us. Well, I got my news on without you, but
I apologize.
it's okay. Well, everybody, welcome to the show, B. Dolan, and we'll just get on with the interview portion of the show and what I really wanted to talk about, which is, of course, the revamping of your project, No More,
Yes.
KNOW More, which so I'll give everybody a refresher here. I had Sage Francis on the show, who you collaborate with, and you guys are both on the Strange Famous record label.
Yep.
And I'm a fan of both of you guys, and I'm excited to talk to you. And I thank you for hopping in.
Yeah.
I was not sure what to make of it, man. I feel like sometimes I worry that musicians don't like doing this show as much as other people, and it worries me. I'm like, is it something about me that musicians don't? Because musicians are my favorite guests to have. My favorite guests to have are musicians.
Nah, I'm with it. I'm with it in stream world. It's just keeping track of them all at this point. Like which stream is happening when. And I got my own personal streams that I'm accountable to twice a week. I got a movie of the week we're streaming on Discord. But yeah, this has been what I've been doing like creatively since the pandemic started, is going deep in
streaming. So you stream on Discord?
We used once a week we stream a movie through the Discord. We use the voice channel in Discord to basically like collectively watch a movie and talk about it in a text channel. So like John Carpenter's They Live was good. You know, like you want a movie that's
cool.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 with like the whole Discord server.
Oh, right on. That's awesome.
Yeah, we do that on Wednesdays, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays I've been on Twitch. And yeah, but also on Thursdays, we've been having like a regular 4 p.m. meetup. The Discord thing has been cool because like activists were talking to me about it, and then music marketing people were talking to me about it. And I had been planning on checking it out, and then the pandemic happened and all my tour dates for the year got canceled. So it became like, all right, let's see what we can do with this. And Discord is really cool at organizing people across different areas of interest. So some fans are there for music, but others are there for activism and politics. And the No More project, has gotten like kind of a rebirth at first due to a tech person that came along, grabbed the database and cleaned it up and did a ton of work for free. But then the Discord has allowed us to have like a weekly meetup where we start talking about it and like, okay, what's it really going to take to get this back online and present it to the public again.
So let's talk about your music for a second, then we're going to dive into No More, because one of the things I do whenever I have a music guest is I always give a couple song recommendations to all the listeners. And, the songs that I picked out, just because they are my two personal favorites, is The Devil's Alive. Word. Check out B. Dolan, The Devil's Alive. Beautiful track. I love that track.
Thank you.
And and the reason I picked out 2 instead of 1 is because this is, I don't think the right word is cover in this case. I think it's more of a readaptation, but I absolutely love what you did with Which Side Are You On?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So Which Side Are You On? The Pete Seeger classic, B. Dolan, updated, or what do you call that? I mean, like, is that a readaptation? Is that a
it's a sample.
Tribute? It's a sample. Okay.
It's a sample, but like that song in particular is such a powerful, that song is not just any song. That version recorded by Pete Seeger was beautiful and like really haunting. It's a nice recording, and I always knew I wanted to sample it, but I had that sample for years before I made that song, because I was like, you can't just make any song with that. That song has to somehow be in the tradition of,
right, like that's why I wasn't sure like what you call it. Like I know the basics of like sampling and what that means, but it's like, well, you kept the title, and really it's like you're doing that song justice. Like, of course, all the verses were your own, but it's in the theme of that song, and it's in the spirit of that song. And I think Pete Seeger would be is smiling down. I think he would totally dig that tune.
I was scared for a while because it was one of the most clear sample usages I've ever used. But yeah, nothing ever came of it. And actually his goddaughter just hit me up on Instagram. It was like, I heard your version. It's beautiful. And yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So B Dolan, check out the tracks. The Devil Is Alive. Which side are you on? Amazing tribute sample of Pete Seeger. And you can find just both those tracks on YouTube. Now, so No More, which I talked to Sage about when he did this show.
Yeah.
The way I've described it to people, it's basically almost like a WikiLeaks style database, but for corporations specifically. Is that accurate or in the ballpark?
Yeah, it started out as we were thinking it was going to be a resource for ethical shoppers in 2005 because I had read Fast Food Nation and I had just gotten done working on the John Kerry campaign and was just really, um, kind of over the two-party system and the once every 4 years way of affecting things. And so, and
You're on the right show.
yeah. And yeah, people were thinking about that type of stuff around that time. And it was like, wow, if this is everything that goes into your Big Mac, how much more is there to know about your clothes, the gas in your tank, the things your house is made out of? And ethical consumerism was sort of an idea that, people thought like this might be the way to change capitalism or have a
Yeah,
positive
yeah.
impact. And because there was no website where you could quickly go and enter the name of any brand, product, or company and get the whole rap sheet, we basically made it. So I spent about 3 years doing research for it. Sage bankrolled it, and we brought it out on tour and introduced it to his fans. And we just built the database. And over time, we ended it at 487 companies at last count.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and
I
it
mean,
kind of
especially when it's like there's just a handful of all of them that really do control everything.
right. Yes, yeah. And yeah, it ended up and it's funny now to bring the database back. These are part of the conversations we've been having every week in the Discord is like, do we still care as much as about this ethical consumer idea? Because there are websites like that if you want to know like the best frying pan to buy to feel good about, what you did and but you not poison yourself. There's ethical shopping guides, but what the database became over time, it was clear, was more like just a big library archive full of corporate abuse that dated back 30 years or the entire modern era, really all back to World War II with companies like Bayer and really atrocious stuff with Nestle and Nike and Dow Chemical uh I just learned about the Union Carbide disaster and just these like historical things that are kind of glazed over. And what
Did you
became
guys did you guys take a look into Coors,
Coors,
the beer?
I know that like New Belgium Brewing was a brewery that was open to be like the opposite of that. I know there's like a lot of water waste with beer, but other
Oh
than
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah. Well, Coors, I mean, the way they treated their employees was just
yeah,
ridiculous over the years. And the one guy has been involved in, I want to say, it might be I don't know if it was Acton Institute or which group it was specifically, but one of those like fringe right wing Koch brothers wet dream type organizations was funded by Coors. And there's actually the podcast The Dollop.
no,
Oh, okay. It's a really cool comedy history podcast.
okay.
And like Dave and Gareth are both friends of mine, but they do a deep dive on Coors in one of their recent episodes.
Nice.
And yeah, Coors would be definitely a good one to add to the database. Some of the stuff like Coors beer has done over the years is like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But who doesn't qualify for the database is a better question.
Yeah,
Like what?
that was part of it, man. That was part. This was in 2005, so this is prior to Occupy Wall Street, the financial collapse, prior to crowdsourcing, prior to smartphones. At the time, we were like, oh, maybe someday there could be a device that you could have on your keychain, and you could take it in the store with you and take a picture of the barcode, and it would, run and net, now obviously. So there's a lot to be updated. There's lots of applications. At one time we even had like a browser plugin so that as you surf the web, if you're like on Amazon or something, like the right next to the products you're looking at, like the little rating would pop up, and we would rate every brand and company for workers' rights, human rights, environmental concerns, political influence, business ethics, and from like negative to harmful. So you could see quickly, like, is it all red or green? You know, and
Mm-hmm.
from the little icon, you could see like, oh, there's a problem with, and then you click on and get the whole deal. Um, but over time and realizing now, like a lot of that reporting has disappeared from the internet or it's behind a paywall now. So as we've been looking at the database and what's there, we've been talking to journalists now who are like, yeah, we should just have, this should be like a library type resource online.
So where is the resource right now? I know you're working on getting it back,
Yeah.
and you've been trying to. There have been some funding efforts, and I think you mentioned you might change the name too. So like where is everything right now?
Yeah. So since it ended up coming down a couple years ago due to like spam attacks and yeah, I mean it, like we said, it had the funding problems. No one was ever going to buy advertising on this website because no one ever wanted any attention from this website if they were a company. Um, and but you know, now that crowdsourcing exists, and now that it's kind of become clear, this could be a resource for journalists, activists, workers, scholars. Um, we've There's some really cool new stuff available. Like Blue Lena is a company we had a conversation with, founded by journalists, that works on getting a subscriber base built up through an email list for alt publications and independent journalists to do the type of research they want to do. Because that at this point, that's what it's become clear we need to do, is just build up a subscriber base, maybe have a crowdsourcing campaign to raise some money to pay some journalists to update the website, fill in things like companies that like Uber and Google that were still big entries that are missing. Even Facebook, when Facebook gets the nomore.org treatment, it's going to be a 30-page article. So we've got plans for all that right now.
But then Facebook will flag it as fake news.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part of why we're on Discord and Twitch and any platform other than a Zuckerberg one.
Right?
Yeah. But right now, radicalconsumer.org is the name that we're using. If you go to
Okay.
if you go to radicalconsumer.org right now, there's an email sign up sheet and a basic kind of outline of the demands of the website and what we're the type of things we're interested in and rating companies for, like corporate money out of politics, or increased fines on white collar crime, or maybe make the richest 1% pay taxes. Just
Crazy notion, man. That's
protection for workers.
well, it's so I mean, there's a number of like really interesting things going on when you want to just blow the whistle on corporations specifically, because I think it really shows all the holes in our system. Because when you look at, it's Wall Street that just runs the corporations. And when you look at like the institutions that own everything, that own the media, that own oil and gas, that own like it's just a big portfolio of assets from them, you see the same handful of companies just in a slightly different order. The comparison I like to make is how when they rank all the college football teams, and they mix it up a little bit. Like one, it's like, oh, Michigan State's number 8 in this one, and they're number 10 in this one. But at the end of the day, it's like the same 25 teams on all the the AP or whoever it is. It's all the same teams. That's how it is for Wall Street. It's like, oh, okay, so BlackRock might be like 3rd or 4th here and they're 5th here, but it's the same handful of companies, the same handful of Wall Street companies that own everything. They own all of it.
And have organized the economy around their needs. And, that's part of the problem. And that's part of what became clear too. It's like, can we just buy our way to a better reality? And the answer is no. At this point, it's not. You can't shop your way. Huge corporate polluters need to be held accountable and resisted in ways that are fundamental, because the attacks going on are, I mean, they literally have privatized everything. Like they've privatized the right to clean air, clean water, and freedom and human life at this point. And that's the reality in a global pandemic with capitalism just completely out of control. And
well,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that I think so many people miss, because I think so many people, they think that the system doesn't need to be completely overhauled. And when you really break it down, it's like whenever someone's like, "Can we have an ethical capitalism?" No, we can't, because that's not what capitalism is set up to do. At the barest essential, like just the barest nature of it, private ownership and those people that have all the power, they make all the rules. What do you think is going to happen 100% of the time? You're going to have a completely corrupt, morally bankrupt society that doesn't care whether people live or die. And now we're really seeing that during a pandemic, where they're telling you, the essential worker, to go die. Go die for the bottom line. It's absolutely, I mean, it is a capitalism death cult.
Yes. And I, in doing research, watched every stage of how we got there in America, and through often like Supreme Court decisions. Like there was the Dodge Brothers versus Ford Motor Company is the one I always think about, where Henry Ford had this idea. Not, he wasn't the greatest guy either, but had this idea, like, if we pay the workers a little better, maybe they'll be able to afford the vehicles, and we'll sell more cars that way. And the Dodge brothers, who were shareholders in the company at the time, sued him and said, "You have a responsibility to us to produce the maximum profit possible at all times." And the Supreme Court agreed with them. So when a CEO does horrible exploitative things in the name of the bottom line, and we say, we think the system's broken, that's the system's functioning. That's actually what the system tells him to do. Probably what his business school training in economics and whole model told him to do. And what the whole Wall Street system is built on is second to second trading, constantly showing a profit, constantly being over leveraged. And now, like, something, like this pandemic gets into the gears, and you go like, how do we go from the strongest economy ever? If we follow the right-wing narrative, how do we go from that to
Oh, did he just freeze?
It was never even a question.
There we go. You froze for a second there. We missed the end there. And can you move over this way, other way?
I didn't have time to properly position the web.
Yeah, I know. We got you on. There, perfect. Right. Yeah, the emblem was like cutting off your eye there for a second. It looked like you look like a pirate.
I'm bearded today, so it's trippy.
Well, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought, like, imagine we lived in a completely different world where the idea of our society was just not a thing, and you just had this big meeting with a bunch of people, kind of like what they did at the end of Game of Thrones, where you're basically sitting around and you're like, how do we organize a society? If somebody described our system, everybody would have a restraining order against that dude the next day. Like, they'd be like, I'm not comfortable with Tim. He's a freaking weirdo. They'd be like, I get it. We have this thing where it's like everyone needs to make money, and then it's like you make money and then you use that to give money to the other people that had all the money in the first place, and then they start up other things to make more money, and then if they make more money, that's good, and then they place bets on whether something's going to make money or not. And of course they make all the laws too, so they can help influence their own bets, but that bet equals more money for them, and then there's all kinds of more money. And like, that sounds crazy. Where did they get all this money in the first place? Oh, from all of us. They extract it from all of us, and then they make all this more money and they keep it. But then if the business makes money, that's a good thing. And that's it. And they'd be like, yeah, you're not invited to the meetings anymore. You sound a little insane. You realize this is like paper we're printing, right? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And nobody would want to be friends with that guy.
Yeah. And yet it's a highly successful magic trick. It's lots of people have signed up for that timeshare.
No kidding, right? I mean, it's just so, like, people are, even that example that you gave with Ford, he didn't say, let's pay our workers a little more because they deserve to live if their labor is making our product possible. He said, let's pay them more so they can buy our shit too.
Yeah.
We can sell more.
Right. And you know that like there's yeah, there's a profit in long-term sustainability. It's just not built into what the model anyone's using. It would seem obvious, especially to us now. I would hope to our generation more so than to our parents that short-term financial goals cannot be what the entire system is built on, ignoring the fact that it can't exist for another 30 years. No one can explain how that's going to work. You know?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just we're seeing what the system's really set up to do, and we're seeing it fail miserably in real time.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, this can't. I mean, we need true systemic radical change. And anyone who thinks the status quo is going to get us out of this, you're just dreaming. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So getting back to the website, where can people go to learn more? Where can people go to help out the cause? If your fundraising efforts are still ongoing, where can people kind of go?
We're not fundraising yet because we want to be exactly sure of. We want to be more set up to deal with those funds coming in and to immediately disperse them and get to work with them. So at the moment, radicalconsumer.org is where you can go to just put your name on an email list that we're gathering, and eventually probably it will start out as monthly or weekly email list where we'll start to just show some of the new reporting and the entries as we're cleaning them up and updating them. Like I said, it's about 500 entries right now that have to be gone through, and the site's going to get a graphic design overhaul, marketing, rebranding. Part of the problem with nomore.org, it was impossible to tell people about without them going like, oh, okay, I get it, NOMOR, and we're like, no, it's actually spelled KNO. We found ourselves spelling the name in every interview.
I
Things like that.
understand.
We're like,
I mean, it is cool. It is a cool name, and it is
cool name.
clever. But that can get a little. Whereas Radical Consumer, no one's asking you spelling questions. You're good. Radicalconsumer.org. Boom.
Yeah. And so, but you know, that might not even be the last name. We're still, you know, the name can change, the structure of the database and how it's going to be presented and how it's going to be continually funded. That's what we're all, you know, working together on. If you want to join the server, you can get there from imbdolan.com. And there's a channel in there called Radical Consumer Project. And you can be part of the weekly meetups and conversation going on. There's a Google Doc, everyone's sharing mission statement, all that stuff is coming into focus. And we're reaching out to other activists. And yeah, the goal is going to be to get the database up as kind of an online public library. And we're also really going to focus on translations because we've had a couple conversations, talked to Chris Smalls, who organized the shutdown at the Staten Island Amazon factory.
Yep.
And looked into Amazon organizing and workers' rights and what can be most useful, because it's really an important moment for workers' rights, obviously during the pandemic, but it kind of brings into focus how much we rely on workers and how little protected they are. And for a moment, they might have like some leverage in bargaining with management.
We call it essential workers.
Right.
That's what we call it.
Over
the
and over
word's
again.
essential there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're still treating people like garbage. I mean, it's so just in your face. And it's like, I mean, I think we need a general strike. I think that needs to happen. And, you know, I know that's easier said than done because we have a system that's set up where, you know, especially right now, if people miss a paycheck, they're going to go under. You know, the system's set up that way on purpose. So it's easier said than done. And when you have a pandemic and the government didn't take care of people the way it's supposed to, it's one of the things the federal government's for. When a pandemic happens, they got you. That ours left us out to dry. But, you know, so people are really desperate. But it's like our only leverage is to just shut it down.
Yeah.
And people like you and I, like the creative class or whatever you want to call us, you know, it's our job to just be a communication vehicle throughout all this.
Yeah. Amazon is an interesting case because it kind of illustrates the global problem that I don't know if I think people are just beginning to kind of have this sort of consciousness in the United States. Like in the US, Zimbabwe Lives Matter was trending yesterday. And like that type of global understanding of like citizens worldwide and who's being affected worldwide by capitalism is, I hope our website can help that come into focus. And that's why we're really talking about like translation, because the thing with Amazon, there's been some cross-border union building going on in like Poland and Germany, where workers at a Polish factory, for the first time, instead of saying like, oh, the German workers, they take all our jobs, the Amazon's going over there. Some workers literally got on a train, like snuck into the country, went to a meeting, and realized that Amazon is pitting these countries against each other. And it's the same old thing that was happening in the United States. Garment workers would fight to get back pay. They'd win after years in courts. And then the next day, the company would shut down and go to Mexico. And Americans get mad at Mexicans instead of getting mad at the global company that is just really saying who will treat people the worst. That's where we'll come build our factory.
Right.
So, yeah, workers in different countries organizing. When you talk about a general strike, how big could it be?
Right.
Because the enemies of the people are worldwide exploiting us.
There was and I'm forgetting the details off the top of my head. This happened about a year ago, so it's foggy in my memory. But there were, I think it was one of the car companies, and they found out that like Mexican workers and American workers were actually starting to talk and exchange ideas, and they were both demanding they get treated better. And the company retaliated big time because they were like, "Oh, no. We need y'all against each other," and not realizing that we're the problem. We cannot have united workers across the world. We cannot have that. We cannot have more of the world knowing what goes on, in parts of Italy and in other places where they have worker co-ops and stuff like that. We cannot have more people knowing about that, or we're in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And the opposite is what we get, the world we've had, where everyone just races to the bottom, and the least accountable, the person who's willing to get the filthiest gets to be president. And and that country gets to build the factory, and capitalism gets to set the rules for what the planet looks like and what human life is valued at.
Well, when you have a system that rewards the greediest of behaviors, that's what you're going to get. So it's like you have no choice but to change that system. You can't quote reform it or work with it ethically. Like, no, it needs, and a resource like what you're building is so infinitely important in getting that message across, because you're just saying, this is what these corporations do. This is what they all do. Yeah. And we ain't sugarcoating anything. We're just giving you the info. And it's like, you don't even need to have a shopping component, because people are going to look at that information and they're going to know, yeah, I shouldn't shop here.
Yeah.
It's going to go without saying, my dollar should not go here.
Yeah.
My dollar should not go there.
Yeah.
This system needs to go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's like an analogy to recycling too. It's like, is it good that you recycle? Yes. It is important and helpful for you to recycle your plastics, and yes. But could we have a much bigger impact on climate change if we got one company like ExxonMobil to change their corporate policy this year? It would immediately be more impactful than all of us continuing to recycle, because the people really, really trashing the earth are, like you said, a small group. We're talking about like 5 or 6 multinational companies.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Do what you can as an individual. Absolutely. Recycle, compost, all those things are amazing. But realize the need for true systemic change. And a lot of people, they don't realize Walmart has an F rating for the environment. Amazon has an F rating for the environment. Yeah. Like they are causing complete destruction to these communities, and they're letting the communities foot the bill. They do it, I mean, they are incredibly, and so many people just don't even know about that part of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things that the database can offer too, is examples of victories and successful organizing strategies. And a lot of the victories that get won against big companies are won on a local level. And I think that's one of the kind of inspiring things about corporate accountability activism, is that you can get on your local town council, whether your state or your federal, obviously is all locked up with lobbyists and money and big donors. You can get on your town council and pass a town-wide ordinance that says no box store bigger than X thousand square feet can exist in our city limits, or no company can come in here and mine our drinking water and sell it elsewhere. And then when a company comes in like Walmart and tries to, you fight them. and then you cause a big confrontation, and you cause everyone that hears about this to say like, well, why can't that town tell, say who gets to build a store here? Why don't those people have the right,
to say not, we don't want you in our community.
Yeah.
I mean, I get contacted by a lot of people running for office, and I applaud those efforts. I really do. But I've always said it on this show, and I'll continue to. I wish that there were more contacts from people running for their city council or running for mayor or running for school board. I'm like, look, if every city council in the country had a Shamazouant or something similar, we'd have a different country. Like we'd be completely different. I mean, there's so much, and I'm not going to say corruption in local politics doesn't happen. Of course it does. But, there's so much more that you can do, and so much more transparency that's there because it's in your community. And I wish there was a little more of that grassroots approach.
Yeah, I think this current moment in uprising has brought a lot of attention to that too. I think people are paying attention, like, oh, my school board's terrible. I personally have learned my school board's terrible, and like starting to just talk to friends, and things have gotten more local in some ways during the pandemic, just in thinking about like, who do you know that should really always have run, and maybe it's time, because this is probably last ditch for democracy.
No kidding. I think we got to go with that other idea the Greeks had, where it's like, we're recruiting you.
Yeah,
we all got together. We all talked. You're the person. You're in. You're mayor now. I don't want to run. Exactly. That's what qualifies you to be mayor. Yeah. Hey, I think I'd like to be president someday. Bad news. You are disqualified from ever being president. You can't do it now. You can't do it unless you say it when you're like 6 or something. We won't hold that again. If you're like a little kid and you're like, I want to be president someday, we'll have a review board that might disqualify you. It depends.
But if you're Kanye West,
you
absolutely not.
Disqualified yourself. You just disqualified yourself. You want to be president, you're out. Sorry, you can't do it. I really don't want to run for public. You're in. You're our person. You're in. Get in there. We all talked.
We have a narcissism problem. We do. You should have a narcissist test.
Hey, you don't nominate yourself for an award. You don't do that. People nominate you. It should be the same thing. This person, they got to be, I don't want that prize. We don't care. You have to do it now because we need you. Heroes are recruited.
You got some. You got some there.
So everybody, radicalconsumer.org, sign up for the email list so you'll know when the database is live, how you can get involved, what you can do to help. There's plenty of opportunities to participate. And what Radical Consumer is doing is they're putting together a database, basically shining the light on what corporate America is really doing and what these corporations are doing. And it is an essential database that we need in these times. And you can, of course, go to imbdolan.com. That's your website.
That's it.
imbdolan.com to learn more about B. And again, don't forget those songs of the day. The Devil is Alive. Which side are you on? Those are two of my favorites, but check out all of B. Dolan's tracks. He's got some amazing stuff. He's making some amazing music. And dude, thanks so much for doing this today. I'm glad we connected.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm late, man.
No worries, man. It was perfect because I was just looking. I was about to just dismount, and then I see you, and I'm like, oh, he's here.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our